everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric here with AJ in Barcelona. Today is Wednesday, June 29th, and we've got a really good show for you. We're going to be talking about a big promotion that's available for holders of a Virgin America Elevate account and an opportunity to basically double down on your points. So we're going to dive into that for the core content today. We've also got some interesting news and updates from around the travel hacking world, a couple of expiring credit card offers in the next couple of days. So hopefully you're listening to this on Wednesday or Thursday. We've got some updates that give you a chance to get in right under the wire. So let's get into the show.
Yeah, man. So, huge global news that actually can relate to travel is Brexit. And without getting into all the details of the political stuff behind it, what does it mean for travelers? Your airfare is probably going to be the same, but if you go to the UK and you're going to be spending Great British pounds, you're going to be saving about 13 to 14% based on the drop of the currency. So what that means is when you're on the ground, your hotel, your food, your beverages, your entertainment is going to come at about a 14% discount. So,
and that's right now. The interesting thing is, like, most people don't plan trips like we do and do it like, hey, let's go tomorrow or next week. So I suppose, if you're booking out into, this fall or whatever, the certainty is much less.
I guess maybe for some European listeners, if you decide to do a weekend, I don't know. I mean, just, you don't want to book a trip 6 months out because of what happened with the currency after an enormous political movement. But
it's interesting. I mean, at the very least, exchange. I think the core thing here is that exchange rates really do influence a lot the quality of experience you have when traveling.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I would say that the amount of, I was pretty poor back in 2011 and still don't have a ton of extra money to spend when traveling. And so, I think about Brazil as an example where the exchange rate went from 250 in terms of Brazilian reais to $1 all the way to almost 4, a little bit above 4 when we were there this year.
Yeah,
and that
the first time we were there, $1 was $1.70 Brazilian. Like that's, it almost
the changes. So I guess the bottom line here is, like, because of this decision, at least for the immediate future, the pound has dropped significantly, basically from like 150 to around 130 US dollars. So you're really in good shape if you have the ability to get there soon, and it may continue. So keep an eye out for good fares. I would say one other thing related to this is I've been working on mistake fares a ton this week, just working on our process for finding them, sending them out to our community and so forth. And there have been a lot of good ones to Europe. It seemed like this week, I don't know if it was just like a coincidence that I was working on them and I was more aware, or if they really were, but lots of $400 and $500 airfare round trip from the US to Asia and to Europe, and from Europe and Asia to a couple of other places as well. So definitely worth taking a look at some of the mistake fares and seeing if those could coordinate with a place that has a nice little currency swing.
Exactly, double dip on the savings.
All right, so we've got a couple of other news items before we get into the Virgin America and Jetblue promotion. Before we get any further, though, I can't believe that I forgot to mention the show notes. So our URL today is going to be abroaders.com/goblue. Thanks to AJ. A little bit of a sacrifice there. He's a Michigan State guy, and that's the
mantra of the Wolverines, my rivals.
All right, but don't worry, you won't. If you're a Michigan State or a Michigan hater, you won't find any promotion for U of M. Great school though.
Yeah, man. Other news, we've got the Hilton status match. This is something you got to move quick on though, because the show is airing June 29th, and you've got until June 30th. So if you are one of our diehard fans and You have status at a
I love
hotel.
being able to throw in those short-term ones where, you got like 2 days to do it.
Oh, yeah, really reward the people that tune in right when the show goes up. But yeah, if you got status at a hotel, one of the major recognized hotel loyalty programs, Hilton's going to match your status.
One thing, just a interesting note. So the link that we've got in the show notes here is to an article that explains in a little bit more detail how the process works. It looks like it's pretty straightforward, but one thing that is in an error on the Hilton status match page is that at one point on the page, it says that your status is matched through 2018, and the other one it says through 2017. So my recommendation to you would be to take a nice screenshot of the one that says through March 2018 and stick to your guns on that. They're the ones with the mistake. It's not really clear which one was the intention, but there's a contradiction. So get a screenshot of the part that says status valid through March 2018. And if you do this status match, you're going to be able to take advantage of it for quite a bit longer time than if they end up defaulting to that. At least you'll have a screenshot saved and you can probably negotiate your way to getting that status match for a little bit longer.
I think that strategy can work. The same thing with credit card offers. We've had some reports of some of our clients in the past where they sign up for a credit card right on the tail end of a promotion and they see their bonus hit and their bonus is $30K instead of $50K. And if you've got a screenshot handy or, can create a convincing story like, no, I applied for this card then, you ran the promotion through this date.
Yep.
It said $50K, I've got $30K, what gives?
Generally, they're really, really generous, but you have to ask. They're not going to upgrade you automatically. And also, even if you didn't legitimately catch a promo, like let's say you just decided to stop waiting, you really wanted to do a round of recommendations, you applied with a $30K bonus, and then 5 days after you apply, it goes up to $50K. A lot of the banks will honor that higher bonus if it's within a month or two. So it never hurts to ask. Speaking of signups, last chance on the United $50K, we think. It says that it's going to expire at the end of June here. And also there's a targeted offer. This is the United Explorer Personal Card. So the public promotion right now is $50K plus $5K when you add an authorized user. The targeted one, which you have to go to a different link and put in your mileage plus info, is $70K or $75K if you add an authorized user. Now, back to what you were saying with having to kind of after the application go back and do some doctoring. I got targeted for the $70K. I'm under the 24/5 rule with Chase. Miraculously, I've been on kind of a long hiatus with applications, and I've only got 4 cards open, or maybe 3 in the last 2 years. So thanks to having chilled out for a little bit on applications, I'm eligible. I'm going to go for it. But the bad news is my credit score is really ugly right now because I've got high balances on a few cards.
Now, that's something, though, that is not a long-term issue. As soon as those balances get sorted, you should see a pretty quick jump in your credit.
Yeah, and so that's really the crux of the issue that I'm dealing with right now is that I know that if I just paid off those balances right now, it probably will still take a couple of weeks for my credit scores to adjust because it doesn't happen instantly. But paying down that utilization should knock my score up 50 to 100 points probably. So right now, just for reference, I'm at about 650, I think. I've checked my TransUnion and Experian or TransUnion and Equifax, and so I'm right around that area. And I think that what I'm going to do is just apply before this offer is over and know that my score is a little bit crappy, probably not in the range, but I've had a long relationship with Chase. So I'm going to call reconsideration, try and talk them into letting me open the account. And the checkdowns, by the way, if you are working through a reconsideration scenario, is often you can just verify the information you submitted, answer a few questions, they'll let you open the account. Just for whatever reason, the automated system shut you out. The second option, and I've got a couple of other personal cards with Chase, is that you may be able to move some of your line of credit from an existing account to a new one. So that's sort of the second option. I was thinking I might be able to move some of my credit line from my Chase Sapphire over to open this new guy up. And the last option is potentially close an old account to open a new one. So a little bit worse in the sense that it slows down your age of credit, but it's an interesting negotiation. So I guess the bottom line is if anybody's out there that is targeted, especially for the $70K offer, and they want to go for it, but their credit's borderline or there's other stuff that you need to clean up, that's the reconsideration process. And if that doesn't work, what I'm hoping, and we haven't verified this at all, that it works necessarily, I'm hoping that after the application, I can pay down those balances, wait for my credit score to adjust, and then basically send them that information and say, hey, look, these balances that were there when you hit my credit report, they're not there anymore. Can you work through an approval? And generally you have 90 days after the application to put that through. So assuming I do still see that targeted offer when I go back and look later today, I'm going to apply, and I'll get back to you guys.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's I think that's important for people to hear. You can check down, because I know a lot of people don't even consider reconsideration because it just, it's a bank. They said no. What am I going to do? But there's actually humans you can talk to.
It's I would say like at least half of the people that say they call get approved.
Yeah.
Like hands down. Like,
and lots of the
50,
times.
50? Well, for a 10-minute call, I don't know how you can't do it.
Yeah. And lots of times it's just like a safety net issue where something with the bank system does not instantly approve you or denies you based on something like as stupid as your address. Your address shows up as not a residential and it seems sketchy. So like we've had customers in the past that had to get on the phone with the rep and say, no, I live here. This is my legitimate address. I don't know why the address is categorized as some industrial complex, but so yeah, definitely worth giving a call. It takes 10, 15 minutes.
And by the way, just a quick note, if you're looking for a little bit of help either with picking the cards or if you're in one of these reconsideration scenarios, check out our membership. There's a full month of free trial. So we can easily get you through the process of recommendations and getting your cards. Any reconsideration, that's easy to take care of in 30 days. So there's truly no risk in checking it out.
Essentially we'll build a personalized points earning plan for you before we charge you any money, and you can cancel it at any time. We're
probably not very good business people, but I think it's going to work out in our favor, in everybody's favor for the long term, because the core goal is to just get people on the right track. You make a good decision now, you catch this United bonus before it's too late, or a couple of the other ones that are at a relative high right now, and 3 to 6 months later, you're going to be patting yourself on the back, thanking yourself for that 80% discount on your international flight.
I think we work with pretty good people too. I'm not too concerned about the community taking advantage of the free trial. I think people have been pretty good so far. We haven't had many kamikaze nosedivers swoop in, max out value for a couple weeks and say, I don't see the value. It's like, shit, well, we just earned you 200,000 points. But moving back towards United, you were just talking about your experience and how you're going to go after that 70K targeted offer. United has a promotion right now, 100% bonus on miles. You can buy up to 75,000 miles. So you can buy 75,000 miles. You will be given 150,000 miles, and that ends up costing $2,800.
Yeah, it's not cheap for sure. It's definitely relatively expensive.
Yeah, it takes it out to 1.9 cents per point, which isn't great, but it's the classic story of buying points. If you've got a redemption in mind, against something, maybe you're going to buy a business class flight or something, or redemption is going to be really expensive. You can weigh it out and see, but definitely don't buy those, speculatively. But if you got something in mind, you could save some money based on buying a flight.
And one other thing that I think is important to keep in mind as far as just like the total out of pocket, this is a tiered bonus. So up to 19,000 miles, you only get a 25% bonus. That's not going to be a good deal in hardly any cases. But if you buy 30,000 miles, you get the full 100% bonus. So it's possible to spend quite a bit less than $3,000 or whatever on points. If you only need 30 to 60,000 miles, you can buy those under this bonus with some decent discount. It's not earth-shattering by any means, but especially if you were going to pay a lot for a business class ticket in cash, or you've just got a small shortage of points, might be
top of the account. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the last thing we have to cover is the Delta Gold Amex. We've definitely mentioned this before. It's a really good card, not necessarily one that I would put ongoing spend on, but the business and personal version both have a 50,000 point bonus, and as far as we know, that's going to go away at the end of June.
Amex tells us July 6th is when it ends, so there's not much time left. I wanted to get that in there today to give people a little bit of time so we didn't hit them next week and tell them you got to apply for the card now.
Yeah, one day.
But those are pretty nice. I mean, Delta it's a funky currency. Things can be really inflated, but like an example we gave recently is had a client 35,000 points from Detroit to Taipei, $5.60. That is a dynamite redemption.
Yep. I think my key takeaway with Delta is it's a great currency to have as a diversifying currency. It's not the one that you want to have be your only currency. It's not probably the one I would start with.
Right.
But If you can't get the United card right now, that's a relatively better offer than normal. 30,000 is very typical for this card. It's at 50. That's almost 100% higher. And so, I think that if you pull the trigger on this, know that you might not be able to use it at a good value for every trip. But those points are great diversification. They've got good partners in SkyTeam. It's relatively easy to search their website. So I would say the one other thing is that using Delta miles is not as tricky as some of the other currencies.
And Delta's probably, actually they are the best US-based airline.
Yeah, as far as quality of on-time experience, I like Delta. It helps if you're in a Delta hub where you've got more options for flights as well. But anyways, I think this is definitely a worthwhile offer to consider. Do keep in mind, if you've had this card in the past, you're not eligible. So Amex has pretty explicitly on the offer page, only available to first-time holders of this card. The one possible way you could sidestep this is there is a Delta Platinum Amex that has even a higher bonus.
$60K, but there's an annual fee.
The annual fee, to me, wipes out most of the value, or just makes it not as attractive as the gold. But if you already had the gold, the platinum's worth considering in that context, because it's also relatively high usually.
Yeah, and I mean, at the saver level, if you find the availability, 60,000 points can get you a round trip from the United States to places like Brazil or Argentina.
Yep, and that's how I've been using my Delta miles for the most part. All right, cool.
One final thing we should mention. August 1st, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, Alaska is changing the way you earn points with flights on American Airlines. And the main gist is if you're flying premium cabin, you're going to earn more points when you fly. And if you're flying saver economy levels, the lower level economies, you're going to earn fewer points. People in the middle is going to be pretty much the same.
And so this is if you're crediting American flights to Alaska Airlines.
Precisely.
Yes.
So
if you want to earn Alaska miles on American, and essentially I think what they did is basically said, well, American's giving their own members fewer points for miles flown, because remember, the big news is that August 1st, American Airlines goes to revenue based. So they're going to be charging based on how much you spent for the ticket. And Alaska hasn't directly done that. They're still doing it on mileage. They've just sort of messed with the percentages so that tickets that tend to be more expensive tend to earn more miles. Tickets that tend to be less expensive in terms of the fare class.
Yeah, an example of the cheapest fare class, you used to earn 100% miles, now it's 25%.
Ouch.
The most expensive first class fare class, you used to earn 150%, now you're in 200%. Nobody gets hurt in premium cabin space, only people in economy, but that can be expected based on if they're going to mirror what American does with the revenue based.
Yep. Okay, so I guess bottom line is you probably don't want to credit American cheap flights to American or Alaska after August 1st. The one real bummer about this is that if you've already bought your flight, you're out of luck. So this doesn't kick in based on when you bought the flight. It kicks in based on when you fly.
Yeah, and it's August 1st.
So if you're flying August 3rd, you're subject to the new rules. Sorry, that's how it works. Oh, well.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk happy thoughts, man. We got a great promotion to cover.
Yeah, this is an enormous promotion. There's a lot of people in the travel hacking world saying this is the biggest promotion of 2016 or in a long time. But what it is JetBlue has a promotion where they will match your Virgin Atlantic Elevate balance if you do a couple of things.
Virgin American.
Excuse me, Virgin American Elevate balance.
Okay, man. So one question, it wasn't totally clear to me from this. You have to show them your Elevate balance by the 4th of July.
Yes.
So it doesn't actually matter what your balance is when you take the JetBlue flight. It's like you submit your account information now, they take a look, and then they won't give you the points unless you buy that flight with JetBlue. But once you do that, whatever your balance was prior to the 4th of July in the American Virgin America Elevate account is going to get matched and bonus on top. So I guess no brainer if you already have a significant Virgin America balance. You want to register for this promotion, show them your balance, and at least that way, if you do book a JetBlue flight before August 31st, then you're qualified and you're going to get the bonus. If you don't have Virgin American miles, or not very many of them, now you're in a situation of thinking about whether it makes sense to make a transfer from one of their transfer partners. So first off, just high level, there are actually 3 transferable currencies that can go to Virgin America Elevate. However, The Amex and Thank You programs transfer at 2-to-1, meaning 2 American Express points gives you 1 Elevate point. Not a great deal. Yep. SPG, however,
is the
transfers
clear-cut winner.
Even better than 1-to-1 when you factor in the 5,000 bonus for 20,000 points transfer.
Yeah, so the play here that you're seeing, the pro play would be to transfer 40,001 SPG points to Virgin. Then you're going to get 50,001 Virgin points, which puts you at the threshold on the JetBlue promotion to be rewarded 75,000 JetBlue points. So you can shapeshift 40,001 SPG points into having 50,001 Virgin points and 75,000 JetBlue points. So you're going to essentially morph 40,000 points into 125,000 points.
That's okay. So let's let me step back and run through just.
Yeah, we should probably explain where those numbers come from.
Okay, so first of all, on the show notes, we'll post this chart, so you don't have to be taking notes here. But there's basically a chart that says, based on this many Elevate points, you're going to get this many JetBlue points. And it's a tiered thing, right? So that's why you were saying that you need, ideally, you want to go for 50,001 Elevate.
So hypothetically, if you had just 50,000, exactly 50,000 Elevate points, you will be rewarded 50,000 JetBlue points. If you have 50,001 Elevate points, you'll be rewarded 75,000 JetBlue points.
Okay. All right. So there's a little bonus there. Now, one thing that you want to be careful of is SPG does take a little bit of time to transfer to a lot of programs. I believe that this particular transfer partner is in the 2 to 5 days range. So you want to move on this as fast as possible if you're going to transfer points, because they need to post in time to check it and send that screenshot, and it would be a huge
and also make sure you got a JetBlue account. You can't transfer the points to a JetBlue account unless you got a JetBlue account. So
that's okay. That's a big important thing to add as well. Okay, so let's talk about what you can do with these points. Why don't we start with JetBlue, because that's what's getting bonused. And then, obviously, people that don't already have Virgin American points are probably going to want to know if those are actually useful to them. But assuming you've got Virgin American and it's as simple as registering for the promotion and booking a cheap JetBlue flight, what are you going to get for the extra points?
Well, you can get some pretty decent value. To get number crunchy, it's about 1.5 cents per point. But as far as where you can go with JetBlue, they're not a huge global carrier, but you can go all around the U.S. You can go to Mexico, a bunch of places in the Caribbean, and then in South America, you can go to a few cities in Colombia, Medellin, Bogota, Cartagena. You can go to Quito, Ecuador. You can go to Lima, Peru. So they've got, it's not just a domestic carrier.
I'm pretty sure Janelle, our booking wizard, just went to Lima, Peru on JetBlue points.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll post an image here, but we've got a lot of stuff in the Caribbean, Mexico City, a handful of places in Mexico. So you can get out of the U.S. with these points. And to give an idea, I priced out a couple things. I just was curious from JFK to Medellin, Colombia, what that would cost out of pocket. That was about $580 on JetBlue. How many points that would require is 33,400. And they change a little bit, but it's fairly consistent on how many points are required. So that's about 1.5 cents per point. And what that means, if you have the 75,000 bonus from JetBlue, 75,000 JetBlue points are worth about $1,125 of JetBlue flights. So you can see 75,000 points is essentially $1,100 off of JetBlue air travel.
That's great. Now, the one thing that is important to remember is you need to have enough points to book. They don't do partial bookings where you pay points in cash. And so one concern that many people would have is, what if I strand points? What if I end up with like 9,000 JetBlue points and that's only worth a flight for like $80 or whatever? How am I going to use those last 9,000? And the answer is probably in American Express transfers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Another nice thing, something I really like about JetBlue, and I don't know if this is just a new trend, but you can split up flights. You can book a one-way award, and you can buy your flight home on JetBlue, and it's like half the cost. JetBlue they do the one-way thing as opposed to charging you 75% of a round trip for one way.
Yeah, it does make them a flexible carrier also just buying cash. You know? And I think so the promotion requires a round trip.
So yeah, if you want to qualify, by August 31st, you need to buy a round trip on JetBlue.
But what you were saying, I think, is really worth considering, in that if you don't quite have enough points for a round trip, you can buy a one-way with points and buy a one-way
you can
back
pretty
with
much
cash.
use points to get 50% off. Use 50% points, 50% cash, effectively.
Yep. And if you do end up stranding some JetBlue points after you work your way through that 75,000 bonus, keep in mind that you can transfer Amex membership rewards 1-to-1 to JetBlue, and it's an instant transfer. So that's super helpful. If you've got like 5,000 leftover points and you need 15, move 10K Amex points. They transfer instantly, book your ticket, and you've cleaned out the JetBlue account and maxed out the value of the promotion.
Yeah. Another thing too about JetBlue is I've heard really positive reviews from people that are not new to travel. Some hardcore international travelers, when they're in the U.S., I know they like JetBlue. Wolf, our buddy in Chicago, he prefers to fly JetBlue over all the other American carriers. So not going to be a bad experience as far as flying.
Yeah, though I guess the thing that I'm most interested in, and I think that if we do this, we haven't done a lot of travel in the U.S., but I want to check out the Mint business class.
Looks great.
It looks
cool.
Really nice. And it seems to be putting some pressure on the legacy carriers, Delta, American, and United, to step it up a little bit, and also putting price pressure on them. The Mint product is like $600 for a one-way transcon, which is pretty reasonable for business class if you consider and compare what prices looked like 5 or 10 years ago with Delta and American and United. So not one I'd pay for, but certainly would use some of those bonus points from this transfer promotion. Okay, so again, if you want to look at the route map, you want to check out any of the information that we've been talking about with respect to this, show notes are at abroaders.com/GoBlue. And Virgin America is a pretty interesting program. I think, definitely if you're considering transferring points from SPG, you want to know that you're going to get some value out of those points. They have a sort of unique situation in that they're not one of the major carriers. They're mostly on the West Coast in terms of hubs in the U.S. So if you're flying from, the East Coast, it may be hard to actually use these points on Virgin America itself.
Right.
So we're going to take just a second here and run through some possible partners. The flights on Virgin America are pretty easy, both because they're available on the website. You can just search. So you can really get a feel for whether your home airport is going to work with using points on Virgin America for domestic travel in the U.S.
Yeah.
However, there's some pretty awesome values to be had with the
huge value. And their partners would be Hawaiian Airlines, Singapore, Emirates, Virgin Australia, and Virgin Atlantic. So limited partners, but cool partners, and they kind of cover it all.
Yeah. Okay, so before we actually talk about a couple of specific redemption options with these partners, just to remind you guys, the numbers of points are going to seem surprisingly low. And that's a big reason why the Virgin America Elevate program is a 2-to-1 transfer partner with Amex and Citi. So in other words, again, 2 Amex points is only 1 Elevate. So you're transferring 20,000 to get 10. Starwood Preferred Guest is super valuable in that sort of arbitrage sense of their 1-to-1 plus the 5K discount. So when you're hearing these are not errors. Like the number of points required are very low because these are just higher value points in general. But the downside is that the taxes and fees are pretty good.
Often they're brutal. However, there are some workarounds that we'll touch on.
Let's get to it. So first partner to talk about is Virgin Atlantic. So most of their routes are through their hub in London, which is at Heathrow Airport. And they do have sort of a flexible, it's not a purely zone-based pricing chart. So you're going to see different prices from the East Coast than you are from the West Coast. But just for some examples, hometown Detroit for AJ and I is 35,000 points round trip in business class with a $910 additional charge. So high taxes and fees, you're basically paying for an economy ticket, but you're upgrading to a really nice product. And then for comparison, all the way from San Francisco, so a much longer flight, there's a direct flight on Virgin Atlantic from San Fran to London, and that's going to be 50,000 points plus about 1,150.
Yeah, so same idea, economy ticket, but you're being an awesome product, and you're going to burn a couple of points. The next one, the tax and fees only get better and better the further we go down on some of these examples. So with Virgin Australia, from LA to Sydney, 80,000 points, $130 for a round trip in business class. That is a nice promotion. That's a nice redemption. That's good stuff.
Yep, and compare that, by the way, to Delta miles. You can also book on Virgin Australia with Delta, and it's going to be 80,000 points each way in business class with Delta. So just for a point of comparison, round trip, it's 80,000 total if you have these Virgin America Elevate points. And if you're using Sky Miles to book on the same flight, same class of service on their partner Virgin Australia, you're going to pay double the points. So and similar taxes and fees. So this is definitely a very attractive option if you can find availability, which admittedly can be a challenge on this route. It's not always open. Lots of people like traveling from LA to Sydney.
The next one is just great redemptions on Singapore Airlines, which is an awesome airline. You had a great experience in their first class from LA to Tokyo, round trip, 40,000 points and $38 in taxes and fees. And to bump up to Singapore's really nice business class, you're talking 95,000 points and $38 in tax and fees round trip. So those are really nice redemptions on really nice airlines.
Totally agree. So I guess so that we don't bore you guys to sleep with reading through the examples, we are going to share a link that is actually one of the better price check kind of engines.
Oh, that's great.
Really nice interface, lets you choose between round trip and one way, and nice little drop downs to see all of the different options. It includes partner flights, so you'll see Virgin Atlantic for some of them, you'll see Singapore for others, you'll see Virgin Australia for other routes. So just depending on the route you pick, it'll tell you the price in economy, premium economy, and upper class, which is their business class. At least I think upper class is specific to the Virgin Atlantic partner. But at any rate, you can see for yourself sort of how these points are going to work out. I guess we would be remiss not to at least mention a near tragedy averted with the Singapore flight. So that was coming out of Singapore, headed for Milan. And they got one of those check engine lights. I know, AJ, you ignored a check engine light for a couple of years on that Volvo.
In a car,
and fortunately, the pilot did not ignore it, turned back for Singapore, which I found strange that from Singapore, I know there's an ocean there sort of en route, but 2 hours out, he turned it around and went all the way back to Singapore. And the plane caught fire upon landing. Nobody was hurt. They put the fire out. Everybody was okay. Probably scared the shit out of all the passengers.
Yeah. By the way, I see what you're doing here, Eric. You're trying to scare away the listeners from redeeming at Singapore so there's more space for us.
Man, I gotta say, so the other news that I came across, thanks to the Dots, Lines, and Destinations podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, by the way. So if you're looking for something else in between Abroaders episodes, definitely check this out. It's Seth Miller from Wandering Armenian and a few of his friends talking flights, routes, all the technical crap. Like, these dudes know everything about every aircraft, how far it can go. And they mentioned sort of offhandedly that the flight that I took in first class from Barcelona, or from Sao Paulo to Barcelona, is going to be canceled.
Yeah,
this fall.
It's a bummer.
So if you listened to that episode, thought it sounded cool to spend basically fewer miles than most other programs charge for economy to go from Europe to South America or vice versa, do it now. It's going to be gone sometime this fall. No more Barcelona, Sao Paulo.
That is a bummer.
So I hate to leave on sad news like routes getting eliminated. So I wanted to share a quick reader success story, or listener success story rather, from Scott. He writes in that he recently sent his wife and her friend to the Hyatt all-inclusive resort in Cancun, was paid for with the 2 free nights from the Chase Hyatt card and some additional Hyatt points that were transferred in from Chase Ultimate Rewards. The regular price would have been $1,500 for 3 nights at this resort, and his wife reports that it was one of the nicest places she's ever stayed.
Man, that's great to hear.
So
love hearing that.
Congrats to Scott. Thanks so much for sharing the story. Any of you listeners out there, if you had a recent redemption, we would love to hear about it and help inspire some of the other listeners to follow in your footsteps. So please share successes and failures and let us all get better, more clever, and save more on travel as a community. Thanks again for being with us. That's it.
Show notes are at brothers.com/GoBlue.
God, I love hearing you say that, AJ.
Jackass.
All right.
This week's international jam is Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Safe travels.
Hey Brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Eric or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, the city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I drive on the street